Okay, welcome back. We're at round 2 of the Sanctioned Vintage event. We have Kyle Del Paggio playing his classic bug list, and Oscar Chappelle playing an unpowered mono black aggro deck.
This thing is crazy looking, very creative, a lot of fun interactions. He's got Skull Clamp along with cards like Bloodghast to have a recurring draw engine, and he's going to be drawing into goodness like Demigod of Revenge, Bitter Blossom, a bunch of discard like Hymn to Torok, Cabal Therapy, Thoughtseize, Liliana of the Veil. I mean, he is looking to shred your hand, kill his creatures, get back more. I mean, this deck does some fun stuff.
Right. It actually plays Necroplasm, which is not a card I was familiar with before this video.
Yeah, we had to look that one up. So Kyle's out of the gates here with the Deathrite Shaman and some acceleration. It didn't have anything to do with those other 2 mana, which is a little surprising. So let's see where this goes. We've got a swamp into a dark ritual.
Looks like we're going to fetch in response.
Looks like Kyle may have been sitting back on counter magic. I can't imagine he'd be staying away from a first turn Confidant to keep that mana open, but let's see what he's got. Spell Pierce here would not be unreasonable, especially not knowing what your opponent's going to do with that mana.
He has another Dark Ritual in his hand and another Swamp, so this could be a pretty interesting turn.
And we've got a misstep.
Looks like he fetched and then decided not to pay mana for it. Oh, passing the turn. Was that Oscar's first turn?
Yeah, that was Oscar's first turn there.
Okay.
Kyle winning the roll, started out strong, and we've got a Lotus Petal as well, so gonna push through some kind of action here.
Right. Kyle missed his land drop.
He's not in terrible shape, though, having the Deathrite. I mean, he almost doesn't even need any more mana for the low curve of the bug deck.
Very true.
We've got a Thoughtseize. He can make sure that whatever he's throwing out there is going to resolve. More than likely, he's going to want to protect this Hymn to Torok. Now, Oscar, to my understanding, steamrolled his first round opponent, who probably had no idea what half of these cards do. So that had to be very satisfying.
So he's going to Spell Pierce the Dark Ritual.
He's got the 2 mana on board.
Does he want to burn the Lotus Petal for it? Or just... I mean, he's going to burn the Lotus Petal regardless.
What do we have here?
Looks like a Thoughtseize.
Double Abrupt Decay. So the first creature that he's dropping is not going to stick around for long. Unless it's a demigod.
Right.
Oh, and Cabal Therapy. Kyle has no hand with just the Deathrite on board. Now, does Oscar have any kind of removal main deck aside from those Necroplasms? What do we have?
He has Liliana of the Veil, Umezawa's Jitte if it ever gets online. It doesn't look like he has any strict creature removal.
Well, he's got a Sensei's Top. That is an excellent time for that in a game that's become a complete train wreck. Sensei's Top can absolutely pull you way out in front by selecting your draws. He's not going to do anything too broken with it, but he's going to make sure that he's not drawing discard when his opponent has no cards in hand.
Right. Looks like he's peeking at Dark Ritual, a Swamp, and what is the third card?
It may have been another Swamp. It looks like it's just mana for him coming up. He's going to have to use what he's got in his hand. We've got a Bloodghast, and is that a Hymn to Torok or a Chainer's Edict? Is he running Chainer's Edict?
No, I see Hymn to Torok. It seems like he would want to save that for next turn, maybe, when he's going to have...
He just wants that card gone.
Yeah.
Oh, Dark Confidant from the other side of the table is definitely a problem. And Bloodghast.
Bloodghast resolves.
Yeah, that Dark Confidant snuck in while I was looking at the deck list. You don't really want to have your opponent with the Dark Confidant there when you have the top. The card advantage is probably going to outdo the card quality.
Right.
Their 2 cards, even when they're blind, are probably better. And he hasn't been able to find a shuffle effect here. This is...
Yeah, he's looking at triple Swamp.
That top is doing very little at this point until he can find a shuffle effect.
I'm surprised he didn't swing in with his
Bloodghast. Yeah, it would have been the play. I mean, I
Especially.
think
Oh, sorry.
the Deathrite Shaman is probably all he was concerned about. I think he might have been concerned about losing the Bloodghast and having it removed.
Oh, right.
But there's no way he's trading his Dark Confidant with the Bloodghast here. So go ahead and turn him sideways. It's not like he can block.
Right. Time Walk. Another Dark Confidant.
And that's going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 4, and as long as he doesn't die to his Dark Confidant flips, he's able to end it right there.
So, let's see what Oscar has in his sideboard as far as removal. He's got Slaughter Pact. He's got sort of Fire and Ice, sort of works as removal. If it punches through the blue guys, and you can use the fire part of its resolution to remove creatures. Another Necroplasm, 2 Engineered Engineered Plague.
Plague, yeah. So Plague could actually take out the human wizards of Dark Confidant and Snapcaster very
True.
effectively there. They have the tiny backside. That would take out a lot of the punch. And the draw engine. I mean, Dark Confidant really just pulled him right back into that game, going from 0 cards to
Absolutely.
outdrawing his opponent.
Oscar stripped his hand and played a threat, and it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, that's pretty much what his deck looks like it's designed to do, is get your opponent down to no hand and just try and win. If only he had a Skull Clamp or something to really pull ahead, or a Shuffle effect. I can tell his deck is a work in progress. It's really awesome that he came out, even though the deck wasn't exactly where he wanted it to be. He's down in terms of the number of Dark Confidants from what he'd really like. He doesn't have the fetch lands in there.
Right.
So, I mean, he was game, even though, and he was rewarded with a win round 1.
Well, props to Oscar for showing up. Much respect. It looks like the rest of his sideboard is focused against combo and graveyard strategies. I mean, he's got Fairy Macabre, Mindbreak Trap, Surgical Extraction, Pithing Needle, Trinosphere. He's also got Sword of Fire and Ice and Batterskull in there.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see where he takes this list down the line. I was able to talk with him a little bit at the end of the tournament, and he said he had a lot of fun and was looking forward to seeing where he can go with it. I'm not sure how Fire and Ice is going to work out. I think Abrupt Decay is everywhere, so equipment is difficult. In the matchups where you'd really want the effective Sword and Fire and Ice, they're going to have the Abrupt Decay.
Interesting.
You know, I guess Young Pyromancer would be one of the exceptions to that rule, though.
Right.
That may push people away from the black-green, and, you know, we'll see how it shakes it up. I mean, that card is very exciting.
Young Pyromancer makes elemental tokens?
Yeah, 1/1 elemental tokens, which,
Red.
again, can be Skull Clamped. I think Oscar's a little ahead of the curve here with Skull Clamp. It is possibly one of the best unrestricted draw engines in Vintage. We just haven't seen people really exploiting it very much yet, but I think it's really poised to do that, especially with the Pyromancer generating tokens.
Right.
But Bloodghast is another interaction which is probably overlooked, and he's also got the Bitter Blossom. So things that are able to recur an X1 body that you can just get out of there to cash it in for more cards. I mean, it could be where we want to be in Vintage, because a lot of those other options are gone. You don't have Thirst for Knowledge, Gifts Ungiven, we've got Brainstorm and Merchant Scroll are restricted. I mean, it's very similar to Gush, but you're not losing the 2 lands. And versus a effect like a Trinosphere, I mean, or any kind of sphere effect, you're not even taxed by it. You're able to just draw cards, no problem.
Right. I mean, we've seen some success with it. Adrian Becker used it in his robots list fairly recently at the, what was the name of that tournament, that Vintage tournament?
Yeah, the NYSE.
NYSE.
Yeah, he's been doing very well with that. I don't know if he was on that list for this tournament, but yeah, I'd actually forgotten about that for a moment. I've played against it several times, and that deck makes very good use of Skull Clamp too, so yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that card. I mean, it's dominated every other format until they had to ban it. So
right.
you got to figure at some point we'll be at that critical mass of X1s in Vintage. So what do we have here? Cabal Therapy going in blind.
Looks like he named the Deathrite Shaman. Just from the way he positioned the cards, I mean. So what does he have? Abrupt Decay, Dark Confidant. Is that Eternal Witness? What is that?
In the middle there, that looks like a
Dismember.
Dismember, yeah. Yeah, so those Wastelands are going to do nothing versus Oscar. He has just a Strip Mine and 19 Swamps as his mana base. That is an old school mana base.
Yep.
So that first turn Dark Confidant, I mean, that's really shows how much better the deck is when you have that piece of acceleration. If you don't have your Mox there, after your opponent's seen your hand with Cabal Therapy, they could just run out a creature, flash it back, get rid of your Dark Confidant. Your game plan's in the toilet at that point. But instead, he's way out in front now. Oscar has to find some removal, or that discard really isn't going to make that much of a dent. If you're spending your turns removing one card or maybe even two at a time from your opponent's hand and they're just replenishing it for no mana, you're not getting anywhere.
It looks like, unless I saw that Oscar had a Liliana of the Veil in his hand, but unless he found a Dark Ritual or a Lotus Petal, it looks like he's just going to be playing Dueling Banjos with his Bob.
Yeah, was that another Dark Confidant though? I think I might have seen the Modern Masters one in Oscar's hand.
Right.
That would be interesting. Yeah. Oh, that's what you meant by Dueling Banjos. There we go.
So, and he has the Necroplasm in hand as well.
Yeah, I think Liliana would be the best way to get rid of that. I mean,
Absolutely.
she would clear the board, start working away at his hand. I mean, there's a lot of potential here.
Looks like he wants to Cabal Therapy away the removal from Kyle's hand so that he can get full value out of his Bobs.
There you go. So it's still a Dismember. He picked up a Flusterstorm. Liliana will be able to hit unless Kyle draws something off of these next two cards. The one from the Confidant, which Oscar will know about, and then the draw step. Was that a Deathrite Shaman?
I believe it was a Deathrite Shaman.
And it looked like maybe another Wasteland.
Yeah.
So that Liliana may be able to come down.
I don't know if he has a land in his hand, though.
Well, the Deathrite Shaman does mess with the whole plan. He can Edict and presumably get rid of the Shaman, then Dark Confidant can take care of Liliana, so it's not exactly where you want to be. We've got Bloodghasts, and now's probably the time.
Bloodghast would be interesting because it allows him to flashback Cabal Therapy without fear of losing value.
Yeah, without the green on the other side of the table too, that Bloodghast is likely to make it back.
Met with Flusterstorm, sure. Underground Sea.
Yeah, Dark Confidant does a ton of work here. I do look forward to seeing Oscar's list with 4 Dark Confidants in it too. We got the Strip Mine a little late. That could have done a lot of damage earlier.
Right.
And it's possible that his list is going to end up running 4 Wastelands down the line too. I mean, 19 Swamps, there's a lot more you can do with your mana base in Vintage than that.
Looks like Kyle reminded Oscar about his landfall trigger. That was nice of him.
Yeah, he's under no obligation to do that. So we may see Necroplasm.
Oscar does know that Kyle has Dismember in hand, so maybe he would try to bait it with Bob. I don't know what's more important here. Necroplasm could potentially wipe Kyle's board.
Yeah, if he can run out the Dark Confidant, the Necroplasm does dredge back. So, Necroplasm, there we go. Of course, he has to read it.
I had to read it.
Yeah, it's one of those cards you should probably read twice. There's a lot of text on there. The fact that it recurs, I mean, that's a very interesting card. It seems like it could be really well positioned versus Bug, but it may just be a little too slow.
Right.
Ancestral just blows the game wide open there. He's got a full grip. He's got a Force of Will now. That was a really good draw. And we got to get that
Dismember.
Get that out of there.
And he has the option of removing it with green mana. He's not able to respond to dredging, though, right?
Correct. It's a replacement effect, and you do not get to respond to your opponent drawing the card at the beginning of their draw step. He could do it during the upkeep before he draws, but once you're there, that's it.
It looks like Oscar opted not to dredge it anyways.
We still have the Liliana, Dark Confidant, and is that a Bloodghast is the last card? He's getting in there.
Might as well. Demigod of Revenge is the last card.
Oh, he's a Dark Ritual away from that.
Force of Will, pitching Mental Misstep. Can't allow Oscar to draw any more cards than necessary.
Yeah, I was talking to a player after the tournament, and they were talking about the plays that they saw with Dark Confidant, and they were a little surprised that when people were on the beatdown plan, they were still removing their opponent's Dark Confidants. And they were of the mindset that, if the people are playing Force of Wills and all these expensive cards in their deck, go ahead and let them get the extra cards and have them lose the life. But experience will show you that those extra cards are more than worth the life, and that's why Dark Confidant is so popular right now. Even against the beatdown decks, you're more than happy.
I think Kyle just lost 5 life revealing a Force of Will, but I don't think he's really too concerned because he can gain the life off Deathrite Shaman. He has at least 2 targets. I think 3 targets actually. So that's a potential 6 life.
Well, as unfortunate
Ritual.
as it is to lose the 5 life, it's actually like one of the best cards that he could flip there. That completely shuts shuts Oscar out. One of Oscar's live draws there was the Dark Ritual into the Demigod, and instead, all that play does is make him tap some mana.
Right. So Oscar casts Dark Ritual.
And it gets Spell Pierced, which, the Force of Will at this point, there's just no cards that are going to resolve, that are going to make an impact on the game. He knew he had the Force, he's just running it out there. At this point, he's hoping to top deck a Dark Ritual and flip in for the win, and that misstep is going to close the door.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like the Dark Ritual would be his out here. It could have potentially done enough to win the game if Kyle had a really expensive flip for the Dark Confidant, but instead he's just completely out of reach.
So it looks like Oscar's dead on board, unless... Oh, yeah.
And the Time Walk.
Yep.
That'll
Seals
seal
it
the
up.
deal. So no live draws when your opponent Time Walks them away from you.
Right. Kyle's at a healthy 6, so he's not going to flip anything more than a 5. Yep. So that was round 2. The unpowered mono black aggro deck could not get past Kyle Del Paggio's bug list.
Yeah, Dark Confidant was the defining card of that matchup.
Right. Absolutely. If Oscar had maybe landed a Dark Confidant first, it would have been a very different game, I believe, because his basic mana base really negated Kyle's Wastelands.
Oh, we got Kyle's Wormwood deck box on screen. He's very proud of that. That was for his win a couple of tournaments back, and they actually were there again this time, sponsoring the event, doing a great job. And I'd like to thank them for their support of these tournaments and Vintage in general. They are definitely the deck box you want for your high-end Magic cards. They are really beautiful.
Well, not only are they beautiful, but they're very secure, and they just... I would be very proud to own one.
They had like a 300-pound person stand on one at a tournament once and it didn't break.
They had a 300-pound man stand on a Wormwood deck box at a tournament, and it did not break.
Well, I will have to have them do that. Maybe we can get that on footage next time.
He was down and he's like, just stand on it, guy.
Awesome. All right, well, that was round 2, and we'll catch you for round 3.